Hey there, and welcome. Ever wonder what gives writing and speaking that polished, professional edge? Well, a huge part of it is getting the basics right. And today we're tackling one of the big ones, subject-verb agreement. Let's jump right in. So let's start with a really simple question. Which one of these sounds right to you? You probably have an answer in your head already, right? But do you know why it's the right one? By the end of this, you'll get the logic behind it, and you'll be able to spot the right choice in way more complicated sentences. All right, before we get to the rules, we've got to understand the players in the game. It all comes down to three key parts: the subject, the verb, and this idea of agreement itself. First up, we have the subject. You can think of the subject as the star of the show in any sentence. It's the person, place, or thing that's actually doing something. So in this example, the bird is our subject. It's the one doing the singing. Simple enough? Okay, so if the subject is the star, the verb is what the star is doing. It's the action, the state of being. It's the part of the sentence with all the energy. Here is singing is our verb. It tells us exactly what our subject, the bird, is up to. And this brings us to the main event, agreement. Now, this isn't a word you'll see in the sentence. Instead, it's the invisible glue, the relationship that connects the subject and the verb. It's basically a set of rules that make sure those two parts match up and the whole sentence sounds right. Okay, now that we know the basic parts, let's get to the most important principle of subject-verb agreement, or SVA. Seriously, if you take away just one thing from all this, make it this next part. And here it is, the golden rule. Singular subjects get singular verbs. Plural subjects get plural verbs. That's it. It's all about matching. Think of it like putting lids on pots. You wouldn't put a giant lid on a tiny pot, right? They just have to be the same size, or in this case, the same number. Let's see this in action. For a singular subject, we say, dog barks. But for a plural subject, it's dogs bark. Notice that little S on the end of the singular verb? That's a super helpful trick to remember. In the present tense, the singular verb is often the one that ends in S. Kind of weird, but it works. And this rule holds up even when you have irregular nouns that don't just add an S to become plural. One child plays. See, the verb has that S again. But when we have children, which is plural, the verb is just play, no S. The pattern stays the same. Okay, you've totally got the golden rule down. But what happens when we throw a curveball? What if a sentence has more than one subject, linked by words like or and nor? Well, there are rules for that too. So here's the first rule for these connectors. When you have two singular subjects joined by or nor, you just use a singular verb. Take a look. Either Kalyani or Varsha is in the classroom. We're thinking about them one at a time, not as a pair. So the verb is singular, is. And you guessed it, the same exact logic works for plurals. If both subjects are plural, the verb is going to be plural too. Neither the trainers nor the trainees are in the classroom. Trainers is plural, trainees is plural, so the verb has to be plural, are. See? It's all about that matching. But now for the million-dollar question. What on earth do you do when you have a mix? One singular subject and one plural subject in the same sentence. This one can trip people up, but don't worry, there's a really neat and simple rule to solve this puzzle. And the answer is something called the rule of proximity. Now, proximity is just a fancy word for closeness. And the rule is exactly that simple. The verb just has to agree with whichever subject is physically closer to it in the sentence. That's it. Let's look at this side by side, because it makes it super clear. On the left, we have the trainer or the trainees are. The plural word trainees is right next to the verb, so the verb is plural, are. Now look at the right. We just swapped them. The trainers or the trainees is. Now the singular word trainer is closer, so the verb becomes singular, is. The verb just follows its closest neighbor. Awesome! We've tackled or and nor. Now let's look at a really interesting exception for the most common joining word of all, and. So usually when you join two things with and, you get a plural. Right? Like Shruti and Harsha are friends. That makes sense. But there's a special case. Sometimes two nouns joined by and actually work together to mean one single thing, one combined idea. When that happens, you treat the whole thing as singular. Check out these examples. My hero and inspiration is my father. Hero and inspiration aren't two different people. They're two titles describing one person. Same thing with my colleague and trainee is Samuel. That's one person with two roles. Or think about bread and butter. We think of that as a single dish, and rock and roll is one genre of music. In all these cases, two words team up to make one singular idea. And there you have it. We've unpacked the key concepts, we've mastered the golden rule, and we've navigated the tricky waters of conjunctions like or, nor, and. This is a fantastic foundation for making your writing and speaking sound way more clear and confident. Now, would you believe there are about 14 rules for subject-verb agreement in total? So yeah, we've really just scratched the surface here. But the good news is, as the source material for this explainer says, the remaining rules are coming up in the next one. All this info was put together with help from the Corporate Skills Academy, which is all about helping you become job ready, interview ready, and corporate ready. And you know, getting a handle on grammar is a massive part of that. So if this helped you out, we'd love it if you'd like, share, and subscribe for more explainers on all things career and communication. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.